Marketing comes up to set the pick. Clayton goes behind his back. Now through his legs. Drives with the right hand. Into the paint. Jump stop. Short. Lowry soars in. Catches. And puts a reverse layup off the glass and in. 3.2 seconds left. The entire arena on their feet. Mitchell, the second-year player out of Santa Barbara, will inbound on the far side. Shea is closest to Mitchell. Williams at the top. Holmgren on the near side. Mitchell has the basketball. Inbound to Shea. 3 seconds left. Drives with the left hand. Pulls from the mid-range. Hits it. We're going to overtime.
Utah Jazz down 20 for a minute there. It looked like, oh, this could be Portland all over again. And then they fought back, and fairly quickly, too. It got down to 20, but they got back in the game pretty quickly. And Oklahoma City hits a shot at the buzzer to get it to OT. Is this the best of both worlds? Compete, battle, and then ultimately lose and protect that draft pick.
Yeah.
I think most fans are on board with that. There are a few that aren't, but a lot of people aren't even commenting on it. They're just hitting the like button. Like, yep. Although, Ben, no. Jazz fans who want their wins. And this seems like the easiest path to build it, PK. Get another good young player. We'll find out, with luck whether, where you're drafting. But at least get an early pick in the draft, add another good young player to the mix, and then Austin Ainge can go out and add whatever veterans he sees fit in the offseason, and away they go.
I think this is the only realistic way to go about it. I don't see another way realistically. Yeah, let's trade Nurkic for Wembanyama. I mean, come on, all right? That's not going to happen. That doesn't go down that direction. And the good thing about it is, that the league can't throw another high pick at San Antonio this year. Right?
Finally.
Every freaking year they do that.
Yeah.
Right? They're done. Their rebuild is over, and away they go. Now they're going to be back in the hunt probably for the next X amount of years. That's what we want for this team here. And they're forced. It doesn't remove the painful nature of it and the laborious way and all that. But watching the game against the Thunder, that's what I want to see. I don't want to see them getting rolled over and being non-competitive. And to me, especially in the first half, most especially, an 15 to 20 point deficit, so what? It's the NBA. And that's what was bothersome about the Portland game. The NBA is notorious for runs by each team. And what are you going to do in those situations? And you didn't have a run. And that's bothersome to me because almost every game you expect some kind of run. Certainly a 10-point lead in the first quarter or a 10-point deficit is absolutely nothing. It is so irrelevant to what's going to happen across the course of the 48 minutes. And you're waiting, and you're not getting it. And as a consumer, at least give me something. That's why Hardy screamed at them on the bench when he did, because he understands that, and they weren't giving me anything. Last night, they gave us everything, and when you know it, DJ, I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander gets all the credit. He hits the shot, and that's right. All cool. 46. But that play doesn't start without the Santa Barbara Gaucho inbounding the ball correctly.
I didn't want to say anything. I think that speaks for itself, PK.
You can't have that play without the ball being inbounded correctly. He's like the center, right? He's coordinating everything. Center in really football. Is. You got to hike the ball. If you go down in there and Joe Montana to Dwight Clark, if that ball wasn't hiked well, then we don't have that. The catch doesn't exist.
There it is. Way to spell it out. Hey, he had 16 and 5, rock solid. I mean, he's not SGA with the 46, but he was contributing all night long. He was hitting shots.
You got to have a great, proper inbounds pass. So in a sense, the Jazz got beat by a Gaucho. They got one Gaucho who's just buoyed, lifted, strengthened, and endorsed the community. He never leaves. No, he's right here. He's not looking to go anywhere. He's ready to sign a long-term deal every time it's offered. Sorry, he ain't no Donovan Mitchell here. I've seen it with my own eyes. He's literally willing to sign a long-term deal each and every time it's offered. In fact, he even says, why go through this? Extend me 3 or 4 years, and then we don't have to do this again. Literal words out of his mouth.
I did say that.
That's what our Santa Barbara guy does.
It ended the meeting.
The Thunder Santa Barbara guy, man, he excellent inbound pass, leads to overtime. Without that pass, it doesn't happen.
And so the Jazz dropped to 12-24. But they dropped there with a respectable effort, not getting dragged up and down the court by a mediocre Portland team. And it was interesting because I watched the game. I ended up watching all of it. I recorded it. I had to be out of the house for a little bit. And I was in the car.
Get speaking? Yeah,
and,
I got it.
And David Locke asked in the crosstalk, he asked Tim Lacombe and Jake, did they show a lot of Coach on Will Hardy on the broadcast? And they're like, no, not particularly. David said he was on fire over defensive mistakes. He was on fire, and it made me back up the tape and go look because he called a timeout and he was mad. I'm like, but I didn't really dive that deep in. I went back to see what he's mad about, and it's like at 9-8 they give up a pick and roll, and the two guys, I don't know, nobody goes. The guy slips the pick and goes to the hoop for a layup or a dunk, and Markkanen's late on a rotation, and he didn't yell at I think it was C and Sensabaugh who were on the pick and roll. And he didn't yell at them, but he went and yelled at Markkanen about the late rotation, which he's talked about. You know, we want guys to stay in front of guys, but if you're on the weak side, you've got to assume, you know, you may need to help, and you got to be ready to go. And he was late. He was just lighting Markkanen up. He was hollering. And when he turned around and walked away, Keanu stuck his hand out and gave Markkanen 5 in the huddle. Like, yeah, you're taking some heat just because you were the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. It could have been any of us. It just happened to be you.
Yeah.
But that was what you wanted. And they were also there were some other interchanges that I don't think we got to see on TV. But some of the guys who blew assignments didn't get back in the game. And, you know, their minutes.
And I was listening to Locke. And
played
he was
10
talking
minutes.
about that.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that's exactly what PK wanted to see. Like, there's got to be some accountability. Now, when you put the next guy in, if the next guy starts blowing assignments, now as a coach, you're like, okay, somebody's got to do this right. You know, if you're all stinking it up, I still have to have 5 of you out there. But they did.
Right.
There was a good stretch of basketball, down 20. It didn't take them forever to get back in the game. They got back in it pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The moral victory is like it's like the worst cuss word you can have. That you're never supposed to accept that. I understand that. You don't want to acknowledge that a moral victory when you lost. That goes against the code. Mm-hmm. But that's essentially what they had. I don't have a code. I don't play.
We can
I never have played. Yeah. And so I took from that, okay, that's the kind of effort. That's the kind of effort that will lead to success as this thing progresses. And you're sitting on the bench and you see guys screw up. Well, the coaches are going to point it out. You ought to be able to correct it yourself when you get that opportunity to get in there. And one of the other things that I wanted to say that has really, really impressed me is we look at George, right? The box score, the body language, and you can see it. You can literally see. But the thing that I like for me is not just see, but hear. And what I mean by that is when he is talking now, he's talking of someone, okay, this is my team. This is the process that we're going to have to go through, but we're going to get to the other side. Trust me on this and believe me, we're going to get there. I'm going to be a part of the solution here. And he talks from a team and an individual introspective way. And he's still a young kid, obviously, but I'm appreciating his level of maturity when he speaks about what they're trying to do. And it seems like he has a full buy-in into the whole situation here, knowing that just give us a couple of years here. And I know fans roll their eyes on that. I've been giving you a couple of years now for 4 or 5 years, and I'm sick of it. I get all that. But you got to look at it realistically. This is the situation that they're in. I don't necessarily think this is the situation that they're mired in, But nevertheless, this is the situation. When I say mired, meaning if you're mired in something, it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to get out of. It's going to be hard to get out of it for sure, but it's not impossible because we're seeing things. The only thing about what bugged me last night, and I know they have to do it, they don't have any choice, is Nurkic getting 33 minutes because it doesn't seem like when they get to that other side, he's going to be there. But the Kessler situation has dictated it, so I understand it.
Yeah, I would say as far as mired in this, I don't think they're mired at the bottom of the league, and I do think they will get out of it. I think that they can get back to the middle as soon as management decides to acquire a few veteran pieces that fill whatever holes exist at the time and give them a little bit of veteran leadership. I think they can move to the middle pretty quickly. And I think we see teams do that all the time, even when it doesn't look like they can. And I think the current example is the Suns. The Suns are not great. They are much better. They are no longer at the bottom. They are firmly in the middle.
Like 22-15.
Yeah, and
they're still without one of their starters.
But do you feel like they're an elite team? I mean, are you expecting them to win a playoff series?
Well, I think that just last year, in the last couple of years, they didn't have any hope. Now they've got some hope. And in order to get to the middle, which, you're going to put the Suns right there, maybe in the lower end. We'll see what happens. Green when he comes back, because he was the central figure in the Durant trade, and he's only been on the floor for a couple games because he's got injured and then got re-injured. The thing that gives me hope, if you do that, that means in order to get from the bottom to the middle, that doesn't happen by accident. You have to make good decisions. And so if you have a track record of making good decisions, then that leads me to think that, okay, you've made the progress to be in the mix, even if you're at the lower end of the mix, and you've made 4 or 5 good decisions. So then I have confidence that you can make 4 or 5 more good decisions to move your way up. That's where I go with DA. DA has a track record of making good decisions. He's literally done it. And it's not happening to the level we want now. But if they can get lucky this year and make another little bit of a jump, then they've got a track record, he does anyway, of making good decisions to continue the ascension. That's where my hope lies. And maybe it is foolish hope. Maybe it's just I want it for them so we can talk about a winning team. And when we get to May, we can talk about playoffs. And if we're fortunate enough and we can get to June, we can talk about playoffs, man. That's what our business, you, me, and Yak, that's what our business is. So we want that to happen. And maybe I'm seeing it through a want rather than a reality. But I feel good about them having an opportunity, if once they get to that middle that you speak of, to continue that ascension, given all the assets that they have, that they can really make some moves then and sort of maybe, I don't know what the right verb is, steal some or acquire, probably is the better word, some of that veteran talent to add to the mix, and then away you go. And so your Suns analysis, Ishbia took all sorts of heat earlier, but it seemed like, okay, I touched the stove. I found out it was hot. That was dumb of me. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it the right way. And at least for them, they're competitive this year, which is a great sign compared to where they were just a year or two ago.
I think for the Jazz, although I have a ton of confidence in their ability to get to the middle and get to the middle pretty quickly, get to the top, you either need to be really smart or really lucky. And I think most of the time, you need a little bit of both. And so are they going to get that? And that's why, even though it's brutal that we're watching, a fourth hideous season, given how good this draft is, given the fact they don't want to lose the pick, and given who they might get if they draft one, but maybe they get a pretty good player. I mean, Edgecombe is making a great impression in Philadelphia. And then on top of that, you got Knipple, right?
Knipple's been the surprise, man. He was a surprise when he was taken fourth.
Yep, he's shooting so well.
He's kicking butt.
Yeah, it's like, well, he's got this elite skill shooting, and it's taken no time to show everyone he has got an elite skill for sure. He is lighting it up. So maybe you get a good player like that, even if you don't get someone to the sizzle of a Debonsa or a Boozer or whoever, if you're drafting top 2 or 3.
Don't even mention it. Don't even bring it into the realm of possibility.
Okay. Still get a good player, and then you're on your way. to at
Stupid
least
dumb
the
luck
middle.
has got to shine upon them,
Yes.
man.
Right.
Or maybe they're answering for the luck that they had getting the statues and having those dudes roll out 82 for 20 years.
I think there's a little bit of that, but it feels like that debt, or that debt has been paid, PK, because you do have to have the law of numbers, right? You're not always going to hit on the mid-round picks. The sun isn't always going to shine. You're going to have to go through some tough times. The Spurs had a long stretch of missing the playoffs. Now they got picks 1 and 2 and 4, and they seem to have, chosen wisely.
Right, and the number 1 pick was the overwhelmingly obvious number 1 pick.
Yeah, right. It was the right year to have the number 1 pick. It wasn't a number 1 year when everybody's looking around like, oh, who will that be?
What it was with Duncan, what it was with Robinson.
Yep.
So they're Urban Meyer. They made a deal with the devil.
Clearly.
I mean, everything turns out well for those guys, and I guess good for them as far as that goes. But I just think there's got to be something that's going to break their way, and I want to see what they do with a top 3 pick. Will they screw it up? Now, prior times it has different set of characters, and certainly in the league it has. But I want them in June to be in the position to screw up a top 3 pick.
At least have the option.
I don't think they will, but I want them to be in the position because, interestingly, I mean, the jury clearly is still out on Hendricks and Cody Williams, right? Mm-hmm. But the jury has returned a not guilty verdict of Keontae George. And I'm starting to go with Walt Clayton. And for where Filipowski was drafted, I can go there.
Yep.
Sensabaugh, we're still having a couple of people who are debating, and they won't bring their final verdict to the table yet. So the point is, the later picks have been pretty good. The earlier picks, we're still waiting. We know the Hendricks situation. The Cody Williams had a 12-year-old body entering the NBA, and now he's maybe 14 years old. Let's see when he can get that body to 20, which maybe takes another 2 years. We'll see, because then you start getting in the renewal of the contract situation. So it's got to get going at some point here. But the management has done well. You'd have to say Clayton was an excellent pick, and clearly, obviously, George is an excellent pick. No one's going to argue that. So they've had, and Collier, I forgot about Collier, for where they drafted him, he's okay. You're not going to build anything exclusively around him or any of these guys where I say they're okay. But the reality is, if you're doing well on the back end, if you get that high pick and the players are there, you'll get them.
They've picked a lot of players late in the draft in these last, in the Danny Ainge picks here. They've had these last 2 years, guys who I think are going to play 8, play 10, play 12 years. They're going to be in the league. Now, they may play 10 years for 6 or 7 teams or something, move around. Doesn't mean they're going to be here and they're going to be lifers, or they're going to be lifers at their next stop either. But you look in a previous rebuild, and Alec Burks, he wasn't a superstar, but what kind of draft pick was he? The rule we always talk about, PK, if you stay in the league more than 10 years, and he did, that's something. And he was in rotations most of the time. There were a couple of years at the end he was not playing that much.
Yeah, except Kawhi Leonard was sitting there like 3 picks later.
Well, that's what stings, is how early do you pick him and who do you pass on. But if you get somebody late in the draft who plays like Burks, it's like, well, it wasn't a complete swing and a miss. The miss was
no, I don't think it was.
The miss was having Kawhi on the board.
Yeah, and some Antetokounmpo was later and all that stuff, but that's their job, man. That's why we as fans love it, because these are what we would consider experts who spend untold amounts of time, and then you still don't know if they're going to get it right, and they still don't know, right? So that's what's so crazy about these drafts and how things work out. What's it going to be? And we have it in football. We have it at the collegiate level, and then we have it at the pro level. So there's no guarantees. And occasionally you're going to get a ding-dong like me who says, oh, you should have taken that player. And it turns out you're right, and then you trump it up. Like I said, they should have started rising over a Brewer. I said that long before. Well, it turns out I was right. Well, it doesn't matter the fact that I probably said 500 other things that were wrong. I'm going to just talk about that one, right? And that's what we do as fans, and that's the fun part. But I do think the organizational structure is there to get this thing. And I know it's just not happening at any form of pace that anybody wants, But I do think, and maybe I'm just as fresh as last night, I feel like I'm seeing progress. It needs a way more, but there's something there. If nothing else, it's George. I can hang my hat on George, who's made a substantial leap, and they drafted him. So that gives me confidence that they could draft some other guys like him. We'll see what happens with Ace Bailey. Obviously, he's got an injury here just coming off, so he's been delayed a little bit, but he's still a young pup. So it's the same theme we've been saying, to the level of patience. And man, patience is a tough thing when you want something really bad. I get it.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, Dom Moore, Utah Mammoth analyst for SEG Media, on the Winter Classic. Coming to Utah, outdoor hockey in a college football stadium. That's next. Stay with us. DJ PK and Dom Moore joins us, Utah Mammoth analyst for SEG Media. His appearance brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. Dom, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Well, Dom, it wasn't the biggest surprise in the world, and if it wasn't a big surprise to us, I'm thinking it wasn't a big surprise to you. But nonetheless, outdoor hockey, kind of cool. People like events in the middle of a long season. It's going to stand out and be something to look forward to, right? It should be fun, which allegedly is part of what sports is about when it's not about, money and power and all that stuff, fame.
I mean, this was huge news. I mean, obviously the cat was out of the bag just a little bit on social media, but before the announcement. But this is a big moment, big day for Utah, for the Utah Mammoth. And I just feel like there's a lot of our newer fans too that don't really know what the Winter Classic is yet, and I just can't wait to tell them and show them. And it's just such a celebration of the sport, the uniqueness of playing hockey outside where, the game started, and, where its roots came from. And as a player, as a fan, it's just a once in a lifetime kind of thing where you get so many people together to celebrate the sport and be a part of a unique and special event.
Yeah, I grew up first part of my life in northern New Jersey, and so obviously a lot of lakes and all that type of stuff. I even grew up in a town that's first name was Lake, and I can remember as a youngster going down there and watching guys play when the lakes would freeze over, and you'd have the trash cans there, and the heat it'd start the fire because it would start to get, then especially the back there, it gets dark so early in the winter that it was always fun just to be able to do that. And we've seen that with baseball. They have played in the Field of Dreams next door to it, and then they've gone to Williamsport and played a game. And you could tell that the players, there's a little extra juice in a long, sometimes monotonous 162 game season here. I'm just wondering, how do you think the players are going to respond to this? Because it's an opportunity to do something different and probably return them to their roots. These are younger guys, but even when they were younger, just as a child.
Well, you nailed it. I mean, listen, I was very fortunate in my career to play in 3 outdoor games. When I was a member of the New York Rangers back in 2014, we played 2 games at Yankee Stadium. So iconic venue, of course. And those are some of the greatest memories of my career. And you nailed a big part of the reason why. Just obviously being in a historic place that you have heard about, and a legendary kind of place, but the uniqueness of being outdoors, playing, the ice, it was a cold night at Yankee Stadium, and the ice, is even faster than it normally is. It's harder, and so there's more glide. So that made it special, and it just brought me back to those days like you're describing on the lake or on the pond, and just totally breaks you out of, especially if you've been fortunate to play a lot of games in the NHL. It's something that is so unique and different out of the schedule. It makes for some of the most special moments, particularly when you win, of course, which we did in both of those games at Yankee Stadium. So incredible stuff.
So how different is it for the players? Because we have heard stories about, when a game has been played in daylight, sometimes the ice is a little soft because the weather doesn't cooperate. The science has probably gotten better over the years. The ice could be a little rougher maybe. How different is it when it comes to the actual competition?
Well, the NHL has gotten this down to a science. I mean, the ice, even in some of the warmer climates, they just did one in Miami, obviously. They've been in Southern California. I mean, they've got this dialed in. I think, some of it, though, depends on the weather, of course. The games I'm describing, was low teens, I think, in the Bronx in New York, and it made for harder ice, which made the glide more. Obviously, if there's snow, that'll add some friction and slow the puck down, like the first ever Winter Classic that took place in Buffalo, and Sidney Crosby's famous penalty shot where he's stick handling the puck through fresh snow. That's what Logan Cooley, when we talked to him yesterday, he's hoping for snowfall for his Winter Classic experience. Obviously, that would add a little magic to the whole experience, but that's kind of the science behind it. But the league has gotten so good at creating great conditions for the players that I have no doubt they'll be able to do that again. I feel like Utah is perfect, especially that time of year, to host this kind of a game.
I believe you had a couple of stints with the Rangers, so you weren't there an extremely long time. But are you a brother of mine? When you played for the Rangers, did you live on the Jersey side?
No, I can't say I lived on the Jersey side. I lived in Manhattan. I lived 2 subway stops from Madison Square Garden. That was my preferred mode of transportation to get to and from the rink. Took me 11 minutes on the one train, or I could take the two or three express.
All right. Out of convenience sake, since you were younger, if you were older with a family and all, you probably would have lived in God's country on the Jersey side.
Well, you never know. I was younger, as you said. The Rangers practice facility is north of the city in a town called Tarrytown. So a lot of the players with families lived up there in Connecticut. I guess I'm well aware, though, of how many Ranger fans reside in Jersey. It drives Devils fans crazy, of course.
Yes, it does.
No, obviously, right? As far as the team on the ice, what are your expectations for this homestand? They got it started with a win. We were talking with Mike Folty. He said it reminded him of a spot in the schedule last year where they really need to turn it on, and they just weren't quite capable of it. What do you think about this 7-game stretch here?
Yeah, listen, I feel like the last game of the road trip at Madison Square Garden was a big one, and the reason they were able to pull that game out is because they kept their focus and intensity despite trailing for most of the game. They were able to hang in there mentally all the way to the end to get the job done, and I feel like that had the potential to be a turning point because it was the same kind of thing last night. I mean, it was an intense game. It was a very physical game. They took the lead early, but it really took maximum focus all the way to the end to get it done. You need key contributions from all over, right? Obviously, we all know the goaltender is always a huge part of that. You need some key saves, but you need to get the timely penalty kill when you need it. You need to get the timely block shot or defensive back check play or in some cases these details like a face-off or a line change that make all the difference in these close games. And I feel like they're starting to turn the corner with understanding that and being able to sustain their focus for as long as it takes to get the job done. Tomorrow will be a big test, right? The team has not been able to win 3 in a row since that first win streak in October. So if they can do that, that'll bode really well going forward.
In listening to the folks, the players, and obviously Tony talk afterward, one of the things that struck me, Lawson Krause, talking about, we were just ready from the get-go. As soon as the puck dropped, we were into it. And then Tony's talking about that too. And it makes me wonder, okay, I get it. And obviously that paid off. But what do you got to do that more consistently? Because if you show me you can do it, well, then you on your own have established the level that's what you need from the very beginning almost all the time. And if you've done it once, go do it a whole bunch of times. What's going on there to make sure that this team has the self-stated effort that they had in this game, that they continue it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's always easier said than done with any sport, particularly, in hockey with the intensity, the physical demands that go into it. Obviously, the mental demands, the pressure that go into it, and an unrelenting schedule where you just, they until Christmas, they hardly had a day off all year, and we're on the road a lot. And so, you get good as a player as you go through your career, learning how to, get your focus up, get your intensity up to the maximum level. And it's a sport where it only works when you can ramp your intensity up to the max. Anything less than that, doesn't usually work out. But it's hard on a night in, night out basis to get all the way up to the maximum intensity, and it's easier said than done. And so I think you get better at that as you go through your career, and obviously still a lot of young players on the Mammoth that are learning that. So I think it goes with the territory that you're going to see these peaks and valleys a little bit throughout the course of a long season. But at the same time, they're right in the thick of things, right? It's past the halfway point, and it's very much going to be a battle to the end for these playoff spots.
Don Moore joined us, Utah Mammoth analyst for SEG Media. This year's a little different for the first time in, 12 years now, I guess. There's going to be a break for the Olympic Games. In the past, do players come back who play in the Olympics? Do they come back absolutely flying? I mean, the adrenaline just pushes them through the rest of the season. It's so awesome being in the Olympics. Do they come back dragging, jet lag, changing time zones, having spent a lot of motion playing those games? What should people expect from teams like the Mammoth who could have multiple players representing multiple nations?
Yeah, it depends, right? I think, for some players, it's going to be taxing, right? You're flying across the globe. You're going to be playing a ton of intense games, particularly these players that are playing for top teams like the United States and Canada. They're going to be probably going all the way, going the distance to the, medal round, if all goes well. And so they're going to be coming back tired. I think in the case of Clayton Keller, I think this is such a moment for him, achieving a lifelong goal and dream. I think it's going to have the opposite effect. I think he's going to come back a new man, a changed man, having represented his country on the highest stage. Maybe, who knows, coming back with a gold medal around his neck. I think that'll bring him to new heights. But I think certainly it has the potential for teams like Colorado that have a ton of players that have been there, done that, and, have been on Team Canada before. And I think they'll come back just a little bit worn out. So I think Utah's in a good spot in that respect. Karel Vejmelka is the one that stands out. He's got a big workload as a member of the Mammoth. I think it's unlikely he's going to have a big workload. I don't anticipate him being the starting goalie for his country. So, he'll be dealing with the jet lag and obviously practices and whatnot. But I think he should come back relatively fresh, which would be very important for the Mammoth down the stretch.
You talk about how we're already past the halfway point, and for somebody like me, just as a media member following the team, it just seems like, my gosh, that has just gone by so fast. And if it goes by just as fast in the second half, the season will be over. I'm wondering, as you as a former player, from the player perspective, does it go by as fast as it seems just from a spectator perspective?
Well, it certainly has flown by as a commentator, I'll tell you that. I mean, it seems like yesterday had all this. The longest part of the season, I will say, is training camp. I mean, training camp just felt like it took forever. And then all of a sudden the season started and you blink and we're in January. I think for players, it's similar. I think there are times, though, where it feels fast and there's times where it feels long, particularly when you're on a 10-day road trip through Western Canada, flying at 2 a.m. It can certainly feel long then. But I think all the players, I think it gets easier for players when they can see a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's another thing right now that's going on for the Mammoth is okay, you got through the holidays. Now you've got a bite-sized portion, right? You get to the Olympic break. You just manage your energy through this next few weeks, and then either you're going to the Olympics or you're going to get a break. And then after the Olympic break, that's bite-sized too, because you can see that it's a sprint to the finish. So I think focus-wise, they're in a better spot now than they were, say, in mid-November, where the finish line is far behind you and is still far ahead of you, and the start line is behind you. So we'll see.
So, Dom, what do you do with yourself during the Olympic break? You going somewhere sunny and warm?
That's the plan right now, yeah. So we got a little trip booked for that time. Take advantage of I've got three toddlers, so we're going to try to get some beach time in with them, which will be good. Get them in the water. Today I'm getting out on the slopes, guys. Day off for the Mammoth. It means day off for me, so going to hit the slopes and get some skiing in.
Excellent. All right, well, we won't keep you. Get up on the mountain, Dom. We appreciate the time. Thanks a lot.
Great to join you guys. Talk to you soon.
Dom Moore, Utah Mammoth analyst for SEG Media. Join us right here on The Zone. DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The John Watson Northern Utah High School Players of the Week. Salate Tonga of Ogden High and Carter Miller of Layton High. Tonga powered the Tigers to a pair of wins at Drew up in South Summit, scoring 15 points in each game. Miller on a scoring tear as the Lancers won 3 out of 4. He had 19 points and 9 assists in a win over Liberty, Nevada, 25 points in a win over Palisades, California, and 26 points in a loss to PG. Also 14 points and 7 assists in a win over Woods Cross. See why new and used car buyers give John Watson Chevrolet more 5-star reviews than any other Chevy dealer in Utah. John Watson Chevrolet, your 5-star Chevy dealer. PK, the Utah Jazz get beat by Oklahoma City. Have you been staring at the other bad teams in the league thinking, is 25 wins the acceptable number? Is there an over-under you've established for where they need to finish? I've been
monitoring it, yeah.
How bad they need to be, at least record-wise?
Well, as we were talking about, what did we decide? Like 3-4 teams that are just locks that the Jazz they'd have to sit market and they'd have to send them home to Finland for the Olympics, go watch hockey and do something extreme to get as bad right now as Indiana. And you brought up the Trae Young thing.
Yep.
I'm not a big Trae Young guy, but maybe he helps him. But because McCollum's a veteran, obviously, and so I wonder, that's sort of a wash. I don't know that they'll be improved. I hope you're right that they are improved. Sacramento, who's going to be the coach in March?
Yeah, I think that I've lost hope for the Pacers, Pelicans, and Kings right now. Those three look pretty sad. I've been surprised the Nets have 11 wins. Agor's going off. Maybe it's his rookie year. Maybe the former Cougar will do the Jazz a favor and help them get a few more wins. I'm surprised they're sitting here at 11-23 as I look at the bottom of the league.
Depends on what the Nets want to do with Porter Jr. Do they want to keep him? Do they want to get something back? I mean, he's their best player, I believe. He didn't play when the Jazz played him. And so what do they do there? So right now, I'm not sure about what their plans are. Let's get past the trade deadline, and then obviously everything will be in a formality for the rest of the way. But I do think the other teams that you just mentioned are not going anywhere, no matter what they do. And I'm rest assured they're going to suck. I'm just not rest assured that the Jazz are going to suck unless they make a concerted effort to suck. You got
their flashes.
The dichotomy of the last two games getting blown out by Portland and taken obviously to the wire and extending beyond the wire against OKC. You know, they looked really good, looked really bad. Well, even if you put that in the middle and it averages out, that is, at least from a lottery perspective, that's a halfway decent team. I'm not talking about from a playoff perspective. I'm talking about from a lottery perspective. So I have a case of nerves of the Jazz and Hardy pushing these guys to where they lose the pick. And in the overall big picture, that concerns me.
Well, the good news is after they play Dallas tonight, and they ought to be gassed, right, going back-to-back after an overtime game, they got Charlotte at home, and then they go that's one of those 2-game swings with the team near the bottom playing Charlotte. But then they go back out on the road for 5 more, and it looks pretty tough. So we thought the schedule was toughening up, and they handled December pretty well. But it's a 5-game losing streak now, and the next 7 or so should be pretty tough.
Yeah, we'll see. This is a funny team because sometimes it looks halfway decent.
It did last night.
It looks like they're out to lunch and they don't want to be there, and the coach is screaming at them. I mean, you got 2 guys that can give you 50, and no one's batting an eyelid.
Yeah, if they go off, we're not surprised.
Well, I don't think 25. I'm talking about collectively, not individually. I'm talking about obviously Markin and George. They can give you 50 points. Right, we basically come to expect that. So offensively, they've got a good 1-2 punch right there, and then it seems like they got 1 or 2 other guys that are capable
on a given night.
It's their moment.
Yeah,
and just from the big picture, that makes me nervous. I keep going back. If they lose the pick. Well, the charge is still the same. The charge will never change, is to improve the ball club as much as you can. And you've got Austin Ainge saying, we won't be doing that. That's a quote. I'm not going to say the quote lives in infamy. That's too strong. But we do know it's like his father said, we're going to go big game hunting. And then we've got Austin. I gotta appreciate the Angels here because they gave us a couple of quotes to hang on and that, we won't be doing that so definitively, almost to the point of defiantly saying that. I wouldn't say he said it defiantly, but almost to the point because that's the only thing I remember from that press conference. Yeah, we won't be doing that. I don't know what else was said, but I remember that one. Well, okay, you kind of have to do that now, but next year you can't keep doing it forever. And with that in mind, so you're going to put your chips in probably over the summer, especially if you get this pick. And it just seems that it's imperative. And then you talk to Locke on and off the microphone, basically, and he wants it badly. And he's saying how important it is to have that. Well, I trust that guy when it comes to basketball evaluations and assessments. And so he understands it and makes me think, okay, what are they going to do? That they're going to do whatever they can strategically and sort of like, okay, well, we're not really watching NBA, but we're going to try to lose this game, but we hope the NBA doesn't see it so we don't take grief. Like, and what was it, last week or somebody did some podcast or something coming down on the Jazz. It's like, oh, shut up, man. I mean, the Spurs were doing it and it was no big deal. And now over here, they're trying to do their best, what they think is the plan. And they got this plan here. And so you want to see it come to pass, especially now with Austin. I mean, I like the guy. I've known him since he's 21 years old, and I want to see him have success. And my number one thing to have success is for the fans, the Jazz fans who have been there for years and years and are so faithful and so loyal and so diehard. I want to see them celebrate. In a sense, I don't even care about the players. They're millionaires whether they win or lose. I want to see the fans because they're the ones that are there. They're there every long after whomever, fill in the blank. Those Jazz fans are there. And I want to see them have that opportunity. And then secondly, somebody like an Austin who I know I would love to see him be executive of the year. That'd be really, really cool. And with that in mind, to get there, you need to follow this out. So they've got to figure out ways to manipulate the roster to make sure that they don't blow this in a sense. And I know it's contrary to what competition is about, but that's where we're at.
We've got a generation of fans now. And really, we're getting to the point where we've got a generation of listeners where they don't know how much fun it can be. If you were 20 years old, so you had a chance to build the fandom, and then they have that run in the 90s. If you were 20 years old in 95, right? So, high school and college-age kids, and you see that whole run, it's 30 years later, you're 50. Somebody who's 30, 35 listening to us, what do they remember about the glory days?
Well, I think they can remember back with Mitchell and Gobert and all, and Quinn Snyder. That was a good team. That was Joe Ingles. That was a fun team to watch. They had the best record in the league one time.
But it wasn't as on fire as it was. It was good.
What do you mean?
But it wasn't the peak. Compared to
the peak was the finals until they get to the finals again.
Right.
That will always be the peak. But it was still a good run. I had fun watching that team. Yep. I enjoyed watching that team. For all the angst people may have with Mitchell, I put that aside. Whatever. That I don't necessarily really care about that. I care about him as a ball player, and he was entertaining. And the guys that they had, Bogdanovich, get him an open shot with his feet square. I'll take that, man. The game winners he hit. He's been gone now for a number of years, and we can still see the couple of game winners that he hit.
Houston.
And those are moments we live for during the winter.
Yeah, 35-footer in Houston. That was outrageous.
And then didn't he have one against Milwaukee?
He did.
At home?
He did, yeah. Yeah.
And then Joe makes the inbounds pass, and Bogdanovich hits the shot opposite the bench, the home bench in the left corner, and then Bogdanovich runs to Joe. And I told Joe, you're supposed to run to him. He made the shot.
Well, if it had been a Gaucho, he would have done it right, PK. That's all I can say.
Well, Bogdanovich was a nothing in terms of college, right? I don't think he participated. No need for Joe, for that matter.
I know.
That didn't happen either. And Joe brought people in.
Oh, big time.
In a manner that we haven't seen from anybody. He just brought people in, and people then embraced him in a manner that he embraced them, and that made it fun. So, and that's just 5-6 years ago. So unless you're in diapers, I think you remember that, and you want that. You want that again. You're starving for that. We're all starving for it, but the fan who has the emotional, I don't have the emotional, I have the professional buy-in. The ones who have the emotional, they're starving for that, and they want that, and they're hoping, they can get it as soon as possible. It's just, those are realities that will all, and everyone, there's not anyone associated with the fandom of a Jazz fan or the team as a manager, as a player, who doesn't understand that.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, BYU has realigned the defensive staff. They've got a new coordinator. Is Kelly Papinga a good choice? We'll get to that coming up. Stay with us.